When seven-time Formula One world champion Lewis Hamilton fails to appear for the Monaco Grand Prix qualifying, the racing world is thrown into confusion. No explanation, no warning, just an empty garage where the sport's biggest star should be. As his Mercedes team scrambles for answers and rumors swirl through the paddock, no one could possibly imagine the truth. Lewis Hamilton has abandoned the crown jewel of F1 racing to help a young Ukrainian refugee with a life-threatening heart condition. But as the story unfolds across 3 continents, a shocking revelation awaits. The little girl Lewis stopped to help on that fateful morning isn't just any stranger in need. Sofia Petrov shares a connection with Hamilton that neither of them knew existed. A connection that would change both their lives forever and stun the entire Formula One world. The sun sparkled on the blue waters of Monaco Bay as fans filled the Rudi Bicycle stands. The famous street circuit was ready for qualifying day. Colorful team flags waved in the gentle breeze. This was the Monaco Grand Prix, the race every driver dreams of winning. In the Mercedes garage, mechanics worked on 2 silver race cars. One belonged to George Russell, who was talking with his engineers. The other car sat empty. Its driver, Lewis Hamilton, was nowhere to be seen. "Has anyone heard from Lewis?" asked Toto Wolff, the Mercedes team boss. His voice was calm, but his eyes showed worry. Lewis Hamilton had never missed a qualifying session in his 15 years of Formula One racing. "No, sir," said Peter, the chief mechanic. "He's not answering his phone. He didn't show up for the morning meeting either." Toto checked his watch. Qualifying would start in 2 hours. This wasn't like Lewis at all. The 7-time world champion was always on time, always professional. "Call his hotel again," Toto ordered, "and send someone to his apartment here in Monaco." Word spread quickly through the paddock. Drivers from other teams glanced at the Mercedes garage. TV cameras zoomed in on Lewis's empty car. "Something's wrong," said Max Verstappen, the Red Bull driver and Lewis's biggest rival. Lewis wouldn't just not show up. In the media center, journalists scrambled to report the news. No one had a clear answer about what was happening. Soon, whereas Lewis was trending on social media. Angela, Lewis's personal trainer, arrived at the garage looking upset. "I've been to his apartment," she said to Toto. "His bed wasn't slept in, his race suit is still hanging up, and Roscoe is there, alone." This was even more strange. Lewis would never leave Roscoe, his beloved bulldog, without care. Toto called an emergency team meeting. "We need to inform the FIA that we may be down to 1 driver today," he said. The room fell silent. This had never happened before. Bono, Lewis's race engineer, tried calling him again. The call went straight to voicemail. "Lewis, it's Bono. Qualifying is in 90 minutes. Please call us back urgently." Outside the Mercedes hospitality area, a crowd of reporters gathered. Toto had no choice but to face them. "At this time, we can confirm that Lewis Hamilton has not arrived at the circuit," Toto said, his Austrian accent thicker than usual. "We are working to locate him and ensure his well-being. That's all we can say right now." The questions came like rapid fire. Is he sick? Did he have an accident? Is this related to contract negotiations? Will you be fined for running just 1 car? Toto raised his hands. "Please understand, we have no answers yet. His safety is our only concern right now." As Toto walked away, his phone rang. It was Anthony Hamilton, Lewis's father. "Toto, what's happening? I just landed in Nice. I'm on my way to Monaco now." "Anthony, I wish I knew. This isn't like him at all." "I know my son," Anthony said firmly. "Something's wrong. He wouldn't just disappear without a reason." Monaco police were now involved. Officers checked security cameras around Lewis's apartment building. They found footage of him leaving early. That morning, around 5:30 a.m., he was wearing running clothes and heading toward the coast path. Back at the circuit, Mercedes called their reserve driver, Mick Schumacher. The young German driver, son of Lewis's former rival Michael Schumacher, rushed to the track. He would need to step in if Lewis didn't appear. "I never wanted to get a drive this way," Mick said quietly, as mechanics adjusted the seat in Lewis's car. 1 hour before qualifying, the FIA race director visited the Mercedes garage. "We need a final decision," he said to Toto. "Will Hamilton participate today?" Toto looked at his phone one last time, hoping for a message. Nothing. "No," he said heavily. Lewis Hamilton withdraws from qualifying and the Monaco Grand Prix. So the MyBay official statement was released minutes later. For the first time since he entered Formula One in 2007, Lewis Hamilton would miss a race. News helicopters circled over Monaco, searching for any sign of the missing champion. Fans gathered outside his apartment building. Some held signs, "We love you, Lewis," and "Come back safe." In the TV commentary box, former world champion Nico Rosberg shook his head. "I raced alongside Lewis for years," he said. "He's the most dedicated driver I've ever known. For him to miss Monaco, something serious must have happened." As qualifying began without him, Lewis's car sat in the garage with a cover over it. George Russell qualified in 4th place, but his usual smile was missing when he spoke to reporters. "The team did a great job today," George said, "but it's hard to celebrate when we're all worried about Lewis. He's not just my teammate. He's a legend of our sport." By evening, police had found Lewis's phone on a bench near Larvato Beach, but there was no sign of the driver himself. Prince Albert of Monaco made a public statement. "Monaco considers Lewis Hamilton a friend of our country. All resources are being used to ensure his safe return." As darkness fell over the famous circuit, the Mercedes team packed up Lewis's equipment. His racing suit hung untouched in his driver room. His helmet sat on a shelf, the 7 stars representing his world championships gleaming under the lights. Toto Wolff made one final statement before leaving the track. "Tomorrow, we race with heavy hearts. Lewis, if you can hear this, the entire Formula One family misses you. Whatever you're going through, we're here for you." What no one knew yet was that, at that very moment, Lewis Hamilton was 40 miles away in a small French village. And the reason for his absence would soon shock the entire racing world. The morning after qualifying, police released new information. A security camera near Larvato Beach had captured Lewis Hamilton at 6:15 a.m. on Friday. He was running along the coastal path, his familiar figure easy to spot even in simple training clothes. "We have footage of Mr. Hamilton stopping his run at approximately 6:23 a.m., said Officer Moreau of the Monaco Police. He appears to notice something off-camera and changes direction. Reporters crowded around a small market near the beach. The shop owner, an elderly man named Marcel, had seen Lewis that morning. "Yes, the racing driver was here," Marcel said in broken English. "He helped a young woman who was very upset. She was sitting on the curb outside my shop crying. Her car had broken down, and she was late for something important." Marcel described how Lewis had spoken with the woman for several minutes. He was very kind to her. Then they left together in her car, a small blue Renault. She was driving. This was the first real clue. Police immediately began searching for the blue car and the mystery woman. Back at the circuit, the Monaco Grand Prix was about to begin. The drivers held a moment of silence on the grid, not for someone who had died, but for their missing colleague. Mick Schumacher looked uncomfortable in Lewis's race suit, which had been quickly adjusted to fit him. "I'm just keeping the seat," "Warm," he told reporters. "I hope Lewis returns soon." Anthony Hamilton watched from the Mercedes garage, his face lined with worry. He'd brought Roscoe with him, Lewis's bulldog wearing his little ear protectors despite the absence of his owner. "Lewis treats Roscoe like his child," Anthony explained. "He would never leave him alone willingly." As the race started, detectives found another lead. A toll booth camera on the coastal road to Nice had captured a blue Renault passing through at 7:02 a.m. on Friday. The car's license plate was visible, and it appeared that Lewis was still in the passenger seat. "The vehicle is registered to a Elena Petrov," Officer Moreau announced. "She is a 28-year-old Ukrainian national who works in Monaco. We are attempting to contact her now." Lewis's phone, found on the beach bench, showed no signs of a struggle. His last text message was to Angela, his trainer. "Morning, run along the coast, then breakfast at 8. See you at the track at 9. Social media filled with theories. Some fans feared kidnapping. Others suggested Lewis had secret personal problems. A few even accused him of deliberately sabotaging his season. Toto Wolff dismissed these rumors firmly. "Lewis Hamilton is the most dedicated sportsman I have ever known," he said after the race, which Max Verstappen had won. "Whatever caused his absence, I am certain it was beyond his control." By Sunday evening, police had traced Elena Petrov's address to an apartment in Monaco. She hadn't been seen there since Friday morning. Neighbors described her as quiet and hardworking. "She cleans rooms at the Hôtel de Paris," said one neighbor. "Very polite, always alone. I think she has a child, but I'm not sure." This new information raised more questions. Why would Lewis Hamilton, a 7-time world champion, leave with a hotel cleaner in her broken-down car? And where had they gone? The answer came unexpectedly from social media. A tourist posted a photo taken in Saint-Paul-de-Vence, a picturesque village in the French countryside. In the background of the picture, barely noticeable, was a man who looked very much like Lewis Hamilton. He was helping a young woman carry something into a small medical clinic. The timestamp on the photo was Friday afternoon, hours after Lewis had disappeared from Monaco. Police immediately contacted the medical clinic. The receptionist confirmed that a man matching Lewis's description had been there, but refused to share more information due to patient privacy laws. "All I can say is that nobody was here against their will," the receptionist stated. Meanwhile, Formula One teams packed up from Monaco and prepared to move to the next race in Canada. Mercedes faced difficult questions about whether Lewis would return for Montreal. "We have still not heard directly from Lewis," Toto admitted to the press, "but we have reason to believe he is safe and acted of his own free will. Beyond that, we cannot comment." For fans and fellow drivers, the mystery only deepened. Why would one of the sport's greatest champions abandon a race without warning? What could be so important? As Monday dawned, a doctor from the Saint-Paul-de-Vence clinic finally gave a statement that shocked everyone. "Mr. Hamilton was here assisting with a medical emergency," Dr. Rousseau confirmed. "But he and the patient have since been transported to a facility in Switzerland. That's all I can share at this time." Switzerland. The search for answers was now crossing international borders, just as Lewis himself had apparently done. And the mystery was about to get even more complicated. Back in Monaco, as the famous street circuit was being transformed back into regular roads, the Formula One world tried to continue without its biggest star. The disappearance of Lewis Hamilton had become international news, far beyond the racing community. "We will race in Canada next weekend," Toto Wolff announced on Monday afternoon. "Whether with one car or two remains to be seen." His face showed the strain of the past 3 days. Dark circles rimmed his eyes, and his usual confident posture was slightly stooped. The empty space in the Mercedes garage during Sunday's race had been impossible to ignore. TV cameras kept returning to it, a visible reminder of the missing champion. Mick Schumacher had finished the race in 9th place, scoring 2 points for the team. But no one really cared about the result. "It just didn't feel right without Lewis," said Daniel Ricciardo, the always smiling Australian driver. For once, he wasn't smiling. "We're competitors on track, but we're also a family. When one of us is missing, especially someone like Lewis, it affects everyone." On Tuesday morning, Mercedes received their first direct communication from Lewis. It wasn't much, just a text message to Toto Wolff. "I'm safe. Can't explain now. Sorry for letting the team down. We'll call when I can." Toto shared this with the team, but not with the press. It confirmed Lewis was acting voluntarily, but explained nothing about his whereabouts or reasons. One journalist trying to investigate found the clinic in Saint-Paul-de-Vence locked down tight. Staff refused to speak, and local police kept reporters at a distance. "Medical privacy is taken very seriously here," explained a local officer. "If Mr. Hamilton was involved in a medical situation, our laws protect all parties." Swiss authorities were equally unhelpful. Yes, a private plane registered to Lewis Hamilton had landed at Geneva Airport on Friday evening. No, they could not share the passenger list or destination of those aboard. As Wednesday arrived, teams began packing up for the long journey to Montreal, Canada. Lewis's race gear was packed, too, just in case. "We're operating on the assumption that Lewis will rejoin us in Canada," said Bono, his race engineer. "His car will be ready if he arrives." Social media continued to buzz with theories. Some fans organized prayer groups. Others created online search parties, analyzing every photo from Monaco and southern France for clues. Through it all, Anthony Hamilton remained at the center of the storm, fielding constant calls from family and friends. When asked by reporters if he was worried, his answer was surprising. "I know my son is alive and well," he said calmly. "I know he would never abandon his responsibilities without a very good reason. Beyond that, I ask everyone to respect his privacy until he's ready to explain." This statement raised eyebrows. Did Anthony know more than he was saying? On Thursday, 3 days after the Monaco race, celebrities close to Lewis began speaking out. His friend Pharrell Williams canceled a concert, saying his thoughts were with "my brother Lewis." Tennis star Serena Williams posted a cryptic message. "Sometimes the most important races aren't on a track." By Friday, the F1 Circus had landed in Montreal. The famous Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, set on an island in the St. Lawrence River, welcomed teams with sunny skies and cool breezes. But the mood remained somber. During the first press conference, every driver was asked about Lewis. Max Verstappen, usually tight-lipped about his rival, showed rare emotion. "Lewis and I have had our battles," the Dutch champion said, "but I respect him more than any other driver. Whatever has taken him away from racing must be very important. I hope he knows we're all thinking of him." George Russell, Lewis's teammate, faced the hardest questions. Would he now become team leader? Was he in contact with Lewis? Did he feel abandoned? "Lewis Hamilton is Mercedes," George said firmly. "I'm just keeping his seat warm. And no, I don't feel abandoned. I feel concerned for my friend. There's a big difference." Saturday qualifying in Canada proceeded without Lewis Hamilton. Mercedes confirmed he would not participate in the race, making it the first time in his career he would miss 2 consecutive Grand Prix weekends. Mick Schumacher qualified in 7th place, a respectable showing in Lewis's car. But the empty spot in the Mercedes garage remained the focus of attention. That evening, a small group of fans held a candlelight vigil outside the circuit. They sang Lewis's favorite songs and held signs of support. The moment was captured by TV crews and broadcast around the world. As Sunday morning dawned in Montreal, race day arrived with a strange feeling. This would be the first Canadian Grand Prix without Lewis Hamilton since 2007. In the drivers' parade, the traditional pre-race tour around the track, the drivers left an empty space on the truck where Lewis would normally stand. And as the cars lined up on the starting grid, something unprecedented happened. Every team had placed a small purple ribbon, Lewis's favorite color, on their cars. Even Red Bull, Mercedes's fiercest rival, displayed the ribbon prominently. The race was about to begin without Formula One's biggest star, but unknown to everyone. At Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, Lewis Hamilton was at that very moment making a decision that would soon explain everything. As the Canadian Grand Prix roared to life without him, Lewis Hamilton sat in a quiet hospital room in Lausanne, Switzerland. His eyes were fixed on a small TV screen showing the race, but his mind was elsewhere. Beside him, in a narrow hospital bed, lay a small figure connected to beeping machines. The world would soon know part of the story, but not all of it. Not. Yet, 3 days after the Canadian race, which Max Verstappen won with George Russell finishing third, a local TV station in southern France broke the silence. A reporter from France, Third and Côte d'Azur, had pieced together an incredible story. Sources confirm that Formula One driver Lewis Hamilton was seen at the St. Agnes Children's Clinic in Saint-Paul-de-Vence last Friday, the reporter announced. He apparently assisted with a medical emergency involving a young patient. Within hours, reporters from around the world descended on the picturesque French village. The clinic, a small building with blue shutters and a red-tiled roof, was suddenly surrounded by camera crews and journalists shouting questions. Dr. Marie Rousseau, the clinic's director, finally emerged to make a brief statement. "Yes, Mr. Hamilton was here," she confirmed, looking uncomfortable with the attention. "He assisted us with a patient transfer. Beyond that, I cannot comment due to privacy laws. But a young nurse named Claudine, cornered by reporters at a local cafe, provided more details. There was a little girl named Sophia," she said in hushed tones, "only about 8 years old. She came in with her mother early Friday morning. The child was very sick. Something with her heart. She needed to go to a special hospital in Switzerland right away." Claudine explained that the local medical helicopter was grounded due to unexpected maintenance issues. The next available air transport was hours away, and the girl's condition was worsening. "The mother was desperate," Claudine continued. "She was crying, saying they had already traveled so far to reach our clinic. That's when Mr. Hamilton appeared." According to Claudine, Lewis had stopped to help the young woman whose car had broken down near the beach in Monaco. When he learned she was rushing her sick daughter to a specialized clinic, he drove them the rest of the way himself. "He didn't just drop them off," Claudine said. "He stayed. He talked with our doctors. When he heard about the helicopter problem, he made a phone call. Within an hour, his private jet was ready at Nice Airport to fly the girl to Switzerland. Hospital. Records, later leaked to the press, showed that Sofia Petrov had a rare congenital heart condition called tetralogy of Fallot with pulmonary atresia. It required specialized treatment only available at a few centers in Europe, including the Lausanne University Hospital in Switzerland. The story spread like wildfire. Lewis Hamilton, one of the greatest Formula One drivers of all time, had missed the Monaco Grand Prix, the most prestigious race on the calendar, to help a sick child he'd just met. Reporters tracked the flight path of Hamilton's private jet. It had indeed flown from Nice to Geneva on Friday afternoon. But the passenger manifest showed 3 people aboard: the pilot, a child listed as S. Petrov, and a woman listed as E. Petrov. Lewis Hamilton's name was not on the list. A ground crew member at Nice Airport filled in the missing piece. "Mr. Hamilton stayed behind to drive the mother's car to Switzerland," he told a French sports newspaper. "He said the mother needed to be with her daughter on the flight, and someone had to bring their belongings." The 8-hour drive from Nice to Lausanne would explain why Lewis couldn't make it back for qualifying on Saturday. But why had he stayed away for so long afterward? Local residents in Saint-Paul-de-Vence remembered more details. An elderly woman who lived across from the clinic recalled seeing Lewis sitting on a bench, making phone calls. "He looked very serious," she said. "Then, he was talking to someone in his car for a long time. I heard him say, 'I can't leave them now,' several times." Meanwhile, at the Children's Hospital in Lausanne, security had been increased. Staff would neither confirm nor deny if Lewis or Sophia were there. But a hospital parking attendant reported seeing a blue Renault with Monaco plates in the staff lot for several days. Social media exploded with support for Lewis. The hashtag #ChawidjarLewis the hero trended worldwide. Fans created artwork depicting him as a guardian angel. Even those who had criticized his absence now praised his humanity. Back in England, at the headquarters of Mission 44, Lewis's charitable foundation, staff revealed that children's health initiatives had recently become a focus area for the champion driver. "Lewis has been meeting with pediatric specialists for months," said Jeanette Collins, the foundation's director. "He wanted to understand the gaps in children's health care access, especially for underserved communities. But he asked us to keep these meetings private." This explained Lewis's immediate understanding of Sophia's situation. But it still didn't explain why he remained away from racing. The Canadian Grand Prix had come and gone. The next race in Spain was just days away. The mystery deepened when a hospital cafeteria worker in Lausanne spoke to a Swiss newspaper. She described seeing a man who looked like Lewis Hamilton sleeping in a chair in one of the patient rooms. "He's been here for days," she said. "He brings food for the mother. Sometimes he reads stories to the little girl. Once I heard him singing to her." This image of a 7-time world champion keeping vigil at a sick child's bedside captured hearts around the world. But it raised more questions than it answered. Why was Lewis so invested in this particular child? Why would he risk his championship, potentially his career, for a stranger he'd just met? At Mercedes headquarters in Brackley, England, Toto Wolff called an emergency press conference. The time had come for some answers. Lewis Hamilton will not participate in the Spanish Grand Prix, Toto announced to the stunned press room. But he will return to Formula One soon. "I have spoken with Lewis, and while I cannot share all details, I can tell you he is well and acting according to his conscience." A reporter shouted, "Is he with the Ukrainian girl in Switzerland?" Toto's face remained neutral. Lewis has asked for privacy at this time. When he's ready, he will tell his own story. As the press conference ended, a statement appeared on Lewis Hamilton's social media accounts, his first communication since disappearing 12 days earlier. It contained just 4 words: "Some things matter more." And in a small hospital room in Lausanne, as Sophia Petrov opened her eyes after a successful procedure, Lewis Hamilton made a promise that would forever change both their lives. "I'll be here when you wake up again," Lewis had whispered to Sophia as her eyes fluttered closed. The girl had been conscious for only a moment, but it was progress. The doctors were cautiously optimistic. Elena Petrov, Sophia's mother, watched Lewis from the doorway. Dark circles ringed her eyes from the daze, of worry. "You should go," she said softly. "Your team needs you. Your fans need you. You've done enough for us already." Lewis shook his head. "Not yet," he said. "I made a promise." While Lewis kept his vigil in Switzerland, the story exploded across the globe. News vans parked outside the Lausanne University Hospital. Reporters attempted to interview staff, patients, and visitors. Security guards blocked all entrances except for medical personnel. Mercedes dispatched Angela Cullen, Lewis's trusted physiotherapist, to Switzerland. She arrived with fresh clothes and personal items for the driver. When she emerged from the hospital hours later, photographers swarmed her. "Lewis asked me to thank everyone for their concern," Angela told the waiting press. "He is fine physically. That's all I can say." A reporter shouted, "Will he race in Spain this weekend?" Angela just shook her head and walked away. Back in England, Lewis's brother Nicholas appeared on a morning talk show. The host pressed him for details about Lewis's absence. "My brother has the biggest heart of anyone I know," Nicholas said carefully. "Sometimes that heart leads him to make decisions others might not understand. But they're always the right decisions for him." "Are you saying he's acting irrationally?" the host asked. "I'm saying he's acting like Lewis," Nicholas replied firmly. "Kind, compassionate, and true to his values. The racing world might not get it, but our family does." This statement sparked new theories. Was Lewis having some kind of breakdown? Was there more to the story than a random act of kindness? In Spain, preparations for the Grand Prix continued without Formula One's biggest star. The FIA, racing's governing body, announced they had fined Mercedes for Lewis's unauthorized absence from Monaco and Canada. Toto Wolff immediately paid the $100,000 fine without complaint. "Some things cost money," Toto told reporters. "Some things are priceless. I think we all understand which category this falls into." Mercedes announced that Mick Schumacher would again replace Lewis for the Spanish Grand Prix. The young German driver seemed less nervous this time, settling into Lewis's car with growing confidence. "I'm still just keeping the seat warm," Mick insisted during the pre-race press conference. "This is still Lewis's team, Lewis's car, and Lewis's championship to fight for." Social media continued to buzz with speculation. Amateur detectives pieced together timelines. Flight tracking websites confirmed the movement of Lewis's private jet. Transportation records showed the blue Renault had crossed from France into Switzerland on the evening of May 25th, the Friday before the Monaco Grand Prix. Journalists discovered that Elena Petrov had been working in Monaco for 3 years. She had fled Ukraine during the conflict and found work cleaning hotel rooms. Sophia attended a local school when she was well enough, but her heart condition often kept her home. The school principal remembered Sophia as a bright, artistic child who loved drawing race cars. She had pictures of Lewis Hamilton on her notebooks, the principal recalled. He was her hero even before all this. This detail touched hearts worldwide. The little girl Lewis had helped was already one of his fans. A clerk at a Monaco pharmacy added another piece to the puzzle. Elena had been a regular customer, filling prescriptions for her daughter's heart medication. The cost was enormous, even with assistance. She worked 2 jobs, the pharmacist said. Sometimes she would cry when she saw the bill, but she always found a way to pay it. Meanwhile, in the world of celebrity, Lewis's famous friends rallied to his defense. Serena Williams, one of his closest allies, posted a video message. "People asking why Lewis walked away from a race don't understand who he is," Serena said. "This is a man who uses his platform to fight for others. Of course, he would help a child in need. That's the Lewis I know and love." Roger Federer, another friend and sporting legend, added his voice. Sometimes being a champion means knowing when not to compete. Lewis has always understood that life is bigger than sports. These statements calmed some of the criticism, but questions remained about when, or if, Lewis would return to racing. On Thursday, 4 days before the Spanish Grand Prix, medical staff at the Lausanne hospital leaked that Sofia had undergone a second procedure. This one had been even more successful than the first. Her condition had stabilized. That evening, a hospital worker captured a photo of Lewis walking in the hospital garden with Elena. They appeared to be in deep conversation. The photo, which quickly went viral, showed Lewis with his hand supportively on Elena's shoulder as she wiped away tears. Speculation ran wild. Were Lewis and Elena romantically involved? Was that why he had stayed? The tabloids jumped on this angle, publishing headlines like Hamilton's hospital romance and Love in Lausanne. Mercedes was quick to shut down these rumors. Lewis Hamilton's relationship with Ms. Petrov is one of compassion and support during a medical crisis, a team statement declared. Any suggestion of romance is false and disrespectful to all parties. As the Spanish Grand Prix weekend began, Lewis's absence was still the main topic of conversation in the paddock. But the tone had changed. Instead of confusion, there was respect. Instead of criticism, there was admiration. On Saturday morning, hours before qualifying in Barcelona, Lewis's personal assistant posted a photo on social media. It showed a small hand, clearly a child's, holding a much larger one. Though no faces were visible, everyone knew it was Sofia and Lewis. The caption read, "Coming home soon." It was the clearest indication yet that Lewis would return to racing. That afternoon, while Mick Schumacher qualified 9th in his car, Lewis Hamilton made his first public appearance since Monaco. He was spotted wheeling Sofia in a wheelchair through the hospital entrance to a waiting car. Elena followed closely, carrying a small suitcase. A reporter managed to shout a question before they drove away. "Lewis, when will you return to Formula One?" Lewis looked up, his face showing the fatigue of the past 2 weeks. "When I've finished what's important," he said simply. Then the car door closed, and they were gone. Where they were going remained a mystery. But one thing was becoming clear. Sabritzifi, bond between Lewis Hamilton and Sofia Petrov, was something special. And the racing world would have to wait just a little longer to understand why. The Spanish Grand Prix came and went. Max Verstappen won again, extending his championship lead. Lewis Hamilton remained absent, missing his third consecutive race. In the Mercedes garage, his side remained ready. Racing suit hanging, helmet polished, seat adjusted, just in case he made a surprising return. He didn't, but on Monday morning after the race, Mercedes announced a press conference for the following day. No topic was specified, but everyone knew what it would be about. Lewis Hamilton would finally break his silence. Reporters from around the world rushed to Mercedes headquarters in Brackley, England. The team's modern glass building was surrounded by news vans and camera crews hours before the scheduled time. Inside, the press room filled beyond capacity. Journalists squeezed into every available space. TV cameras lined the back wall. At exactly 10 a.m., Toto Wolff walked in, followed by the team's legal director. But there was no Lewis Hamilton. "Thank you all for coming," Toto began, his face serious. "Lewis sends his apologies for not being here today, but he has authorized me to share some information about his situation." The room fell silent. Every phone was recording, every pen poised over notebooks. 3 weeks ago, Lewis Hamilton encountered a young woman in distress in Monaco. Her name is Elena Petrov. Her 8-year-old daughter, Sofia, was experiencing a medical emergency related to a congenital heart condition. Louis helped transport them to a specialized clinic and later arranged for Sophia to be flown to Switzerland for advanced treatment. Toto paused, looking down at his notes. What you don't know is that Louis has remained with Sophia and her mother because the child's condition was life-threatening and required multiple procedures. The doctors have now cleared Sophia to travel, and she has been moved to a private location to continue her recovery. A reporter called out, "Where is Louis now?" "He is with Sophia and her mother," Toto replied. "He will return to Formula One for the Canadian Grand Prix next weekend." Louis has asked for privacy until then, when he will address the media personally. Another journalist shouted, "Why has he stayed involved for so long? Is there more to the story?" Toto's expression remained neutral. Louis has formed a bond with this family. Beyond that, it's his story to tell. The press conference lasted only 10 minutes. Toto deflected most questions, promising that Louis would explain everything himself in Montreal. This half-explanation only fueled more speculation. Meanwhile, the mystery of Louis and Sophia's whereabouts was solved by a sharp-eyed fan. A private plane registered to Lewis Hamilton had landed at Biggin Hill Airport near London. Airport staff confirmed that a child in a wheelchair had been among the passengers. Reporters swarmed Louis's London home but found no activity. His neighbors hadn't seen him. His security team maintained a tight perimeter around the property, refusing to answer questions. Then, an unlikely source provided a major clue. A nurse from the children's ward at St. Mary's Hospital in London posted a thank you message on social media. "To the F1 champion who visited our cardiac unit today and brought so much joy to our patients. Thank you. Your kindness means everything to these kids fighting huge battles." The post was quickly deleted, but not before it had been screenshotted and shared thousands of times. Louis had taken Sophia to one of London's top children's hospitals for a consultation. By Wednesday, 3 days before the Canadian Grand Prix, another piece of the puzzle emerged. Elena Petrov gave a brief interview to a Swiss newspaper. Her story was heart-wrenching. Elena had fled Ukraine in 2022 with 3-year-old Sophia. Her husband, a British aid worker named Michael, had been killed in the conflict. As a widow with a sick child, Elena had struggled to build a new life in Monaco, working as a hotel cleaner and night receptionist to pay for Sophia's medical care. "I had heard of Lewis Hamilton, of course," Elena said in the interview. Sophia loves Formula One. She watches every race. Lewis was her favorite driver. She has a toy car with his number. Elena explained that on that fateful Friday morning, Sophia had woken with severe chest pain. The local hospital had advised Elena to take her to the specialized clinic in Saint-Paul-de-Vence immediately. But their old car had broken down on the way. "I was sitting on the curb crying, trying to call a taxi I couldn't afford, when this man stopped to help," Elena recalled. "It took me a moment to recognize him because he was in running clothes, not his racing suit." Sophia recognized him first. According to Elena, Louis had not only driven them to the clinic, but had stayed when he learned about the helicopter situation. He had made calls, arranged his plane, and promised to ensure Sophia received the best care possible. "He told me not to worry about money," Elena said. "He said he would take care of everything. Who does that for strangers?" I tried to refuse. I told him he had a race. He just said, "There will be other races." This interview touched hearts around the world. The story of a single mother struggling to save her child and a world champion giving up everything to help was powerful. But it still didn't explain why Louis had remained so involved for 3 whole weeks, missing multiple races and potentially sacrificing his championship hopes. On Thursday morning, Lewis Hamilton finally broke his silence with a simple social media post. It showed him sitting beside a hospital bed, holding the hand of a young girl whose face was obscured for privacy. The caption read, "Some things put life into perspective. Racing is my passion, but humanity comes first. Thank you for your patience. See you in Montreal, where I'll explain everything." Hours later, Lewis was spotted boarding his private jet with his assistant Angela and his physiotherapist. He was returning to racing at last. In Montreal, the circuit Gilles Villeneuve was buzzing with anticipation. Lewis Hamilton's garage had been prepared. His car was ready. His team waited anxiously. On Friday morning, Lewis walked into the paddock for the first time in 3 weeks. He looked thinner, but calm. Teammates applauded as he entered the Mercedes hospitality area. Toto Wolff embraced him like a returning son. The mandatory press conference was moved to a larger room to accommodate the overwhelming media interest. Every seat was filled when Lewis walked in wearing his Mercedes team shirt. A small Ukrainian flag pin was visible on his collar, a new addition to his usual attire. "Thank you all for coming," Lewis began, his voice steady. "I know I owe you all an explanation for my absence. First, I want to apologize to my team, my sponsors, and my fans. Missing 3 races was never my intention, but I don't regret my decision." Lewis took a sip of water before continuing. 3 weeks ago, I met a brave little girl named Sophia and her mother, Elena. Sophia has a congenital heart condition that required specialized treatment. I was in a position to help, so I did. That's the simple part of the story." He paused, looking down at his hands. "What I didn't know when I first stopped to help them was that Sophia's situation would become personal to me in ways I never expected. You see, my family has a history with the same heart condition that affects Sophia. My young cousin Lily died from it when I was a teenager." A murmur went through the press room. This was not public knowledge. Seeing Sophia fighting the same battle that Lily lost, I couldn't walk away. I couldn't get in my car and race while knowing she was fighting for her life. So I stayed. I made sure she got the best care possible. And I promised her I wouldn't leave until I knew she was going to be okay. Lewis looked up, his eyes shining with emotion, but his voice steady. "Sophia is stable now. She's in London with some of the best doctors in the world. Her mother, Elena, is with her. And I'm back to do what I love, racing. But my perspective has changed. Some things matter more than championships." A reporter raised her hand. "Lewis, are you saying you've formed a personal connection with this family because of your cousin's similar condition?" Lewis nodded slowly. "Yes, that's part of it. But there's more to the story. More that I'm not ready to share today. When the time is right, you'll understand everything." With that cryptic comment, Lewis ended the press conference, leaving the media with more questions than answers. But one thing was clear. Lewis Hamilton had returned to Formula One, changed by his experience but ready to race again. What remained unclear was what secret he was still keeping about his connection to Sofia Petrov and her mother. The answer would shock the entire F1 world when it finally came to light. Lewis Hamilton's return to Formula One felt different than anyone expected. There was no grand entrance, no dramatic statements. Instead, he moved through the Canadian Grand Prix paddock with quiet purpose. The usual crowds followed him, but there was a new respect in their eyes. This was a champion who had proven his humanity outside the track. "Lewis, how does it feel to be back?" a reporter called as he walked toward the Mercedes garage. "It feels right," Lewis answered simply. "But part of me is still in London." His team welcomed him back with embraces and smiles. George Russell, his teammate, clapped him on the shoulder. "The car missed you," George joked. "It's been asking for you." Lewis laughed, but his focus was already on the track. After 3 weeks away, he needed to quickly readjust to the demanding world of Formula One. The first practice session would begin in 2 hours. Bono, his race engineer, handed him a stack of data from the previous races. "We've made some changes," he explained. "The car feels different now." Lewis nodded, scanning the papers. "Different good or different bad?" "Different interesting," Bono replied with a small smile. The first practice session revealed how much ground Lewis had lost. He finished 7th, more than half a second behind Max Verstappen's leading time. Media commentary was immediate and harsh. Hamilton clearly rusty after his 3-race absence. One broadcaster announced, "The question is whether his heart is truly back in racing." These comments stung, but Lewis remained calm in the team debrief. "I need more time in the car," he told his engineers. "The feeling will come back." Throughout the day, Lewis checked his phone between sessions. When a reporter asked if he was distracted, Lewis was unusually open. "I'm getting updates from London," he explained. "Sophia had another checkup today." "The Ukrainian girl means that much to you?" the reporter pressed. Lewis looked at him steadily. "Yes, she does." By Saturday morning, something had shifted. Lewis entered the circuit looking more focused, more present. During the 3rd practice session, his times improved dramatically. He finished just 2/10 behind Verstappen. In qualifying, Lewis surprised everyone by securing 3rd place on the grid. Only Verstappen and Charles Leclerc would start ahead of him. The paddock buzzed with excitement. The old Lewis was returning. "Welcome back," Verstappen said when they met in the cool-down room after qualifying. "I missed fighting with you," Lewis smiled. "We'll see about that fighting part tomorrow." That evening, Lewis did something unexpected. He invited a small group of reporters to the Mercedes hospitality area. No cameras, just notebooks. He had something to share. "I want to clear up some misconceptions," Lewis began. "People are suggesting that my absence shows a lack of commitment to racing. Nothing could be further from the truth. Racing is in my blood. It always will be." He sipped water before continuing. "But sometimes life puts you in situations where you have to choose between what you love and what's right. I couldn't race knowing Sophia needed help. I couldn't focus, knowing her life was at risk." One journalist asked the question everyone wanted answered. "Will you tell us what you meant about there being more to the story?" Lewis shook his head. "Not yet. There are people who need to hear it from me first, privately. But I promise you'll understand soon." The next morning, race day, brought another surprise. Elena Petrov posted a photo on social media. It showed Sophia in a hospital bed in London, giving a thumbs up to the camera. She was wearing a miniature version of Lewis's helmet. The caption read, "Sophia's champion is racing today. We are watching Lewis. Win for us." The photo was shared millions of times within hours. Fans arriving at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve carried signs reading, "Win for Sophia" and "Lewis and Sophia, champions." As Lewis prepared for the race, Toto Wolff pulled him aside. "No pressure," the team principal said. "Just come home safe. That's all Sophia needs today." Lewis nodded, but his eyes showed a new determination. "I'm going to give her more than that." When drivers took their places on the grid, something unusual happened. Max Verstappen, who would start from pole position, walked over to Lewis. The two rivals had a history of tense relationships, but today Verstappen extended his hand. "Whatever happens out there," Max said, loud enough for nearby cameras to hear, "what you did for that girl was the act of a true champion." Lewis accepted the handshake with grace. "Thank you, Max. That means a lot." The race began with Lewis making a strong start, maintaining his third position. For the first 20 laps, he stayed close to Leclerc's Ferrari, looking for an opportunity to pass. His team radio remained mostly silent, unusual for the normally chatty driver. Then, on lap 23, Bono's voice came through Lewis's headset. "Sophia's watching, Lewis. Her doctors say her heart rate improves when you're in the lead." No one outside the team heard this message, but its effect was visible. Lewis's next lap was the fastest of the race so far. On lap 25, he made a daring move around the outside of Turn 1, passing Leclerc cleanly for second place. Now, only Verstappen remained ahead. The Dutch driver had built a 5-second lead, a gap that would normally be impossible to close without a safety car or pit stop advantage. But this was Lewis Hamilton, the man who had returned from something bigger than racing. Lap by lap, he chipped away at Verstappen's lead. His tire management was perfect. His racing line was flawless. The Mercedes garage watched in awe as their driver performed at a level they hadn't seen in years. With 15 laps remaining, the gap was down to 3 seconds. With 10 laps to go, it was under 2 seconds. Verstappen's race engineer warned him that Lewis was coming. "Defend if you need to," the engineer instructed, "but remember your tires." With 5 laps remaining, Lewis was within DRS range, close enough to use the speed advantage of his open rear wing. The two champions, with 12 world titles between them, began a battle that captivated the crowd. Lewis tried a move at the hairpin, but couldn't make it stick. He tried again at the final chicane, but ran wide. It seemed Verstappen would hold on for the win. Then, on the final lap, Lewis found an opening. Verstappen defended the inside line into Turn 1, but Lewis feinted outside before cutting back. Inside. The move caught Verstappen by surprise. The two cars ran side by side through Turn 2, wheels almost touching. Lewis completed the pass as they exited the corner. The Mercedes garage erupted in cheers. For the remaining corners, Lewis drove with precision, crossing the finish line 1.2 seconds ahead of Verstappen. As he took the checkered flag, Lewis's first words on the radio weren't his usual celebration. Instead, he simply said, "That was for Sofia." On the podium, Lewis pointed to a small Ukrainian flag sewn onto his racing suit, just above his heart. The symbol wasn't lost on anyone watching. Something profound had changed in Lewis Hamilton, and the F1 world would soon learn just how deep his connection to Sofia Petrov really was. The post-race press conference in Montreal buzzed with energy. Lewis Hamilton sat at the center table, the winner's trophy beside him. Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc flanked him, both still processing how Lewis had managed to win after 3 weeks away from racing. "Lewis, an incredible comeback win," the moderator began. "How does it feel?" Lewis leaned toward the microphone. "It feels like coming home. But this win means more than others." "Because of Sofia?" a journalist asked. "Yes," Lewis confirmed. "She was watching today from her hospital room in London." Another reporter raised his hand. "The Ukrainian flag on your suit, is that for Sofia and her mother?" Lewis touched the small flag sewn above his heart. "Partly," he said, "but it's also personal for me." Before Lewis could explain further, the moderator moved on to questions about the race. The moment passed, but everyone sensed Lewis was gradually revealing pieces of a larger story. After the press conference, Lewis made a video call from the Mercedes motorhome. TV cameras caught a glimpse of his face, eyes shining with emotion as he showed his trophy to someone on the other end. Later, his social media account posted a split-screen image: Lewis on the podium and Sophia in her hospital bed, both giving the same thumbs-up gesture. As teams packed up from Canada, news broke that Sophia Petrov had been discharged from the London hospital. Paparazzi photographs showed Lewis's personal assistant helping Elena and Sophia into a car with tinted windows. Their destination remained private, but rumors suggested they were staying at Lewis's home in the English countryside. Formula One moved on to the next race in Austria, but the story of Lewis and Sophia continued to captivate fans. At the Red Bull Ring, Lewis arrived wearing his usual team gear, but eagle-eyed observers noticed a new addition: a small charm bracelet on his wrist with a heart-shaped pendant. "A gift from Sophia," he explained when asked. "She made it in art therapy." During Thursday's media day, a journalist from a Ukrainian newspaper raised her hand. "Your connection to Ukraine through Sophia and Elena seems very personal," she noted. "Does your family have Ukrainian heritage?" Lewis paused thoughtfully. "My family background is complex, with roots in many places. But this connection to Sophia goes deeper than nationality." On Friday morning, Lewis did something unusual. He requested a special visitor pass for the weekend. When asked who it was, he simply said, "Family." Speculation ran wild. Would Sophia be well enough to attend the race? Was Lewis planning to formally announce some kind of support program or foundation for the child? The answer came on Saturday after qualifying. Lewis had secured second place on the grid, showing his Canadian win was no fluke. As he returned to the paddock, cameras caught an emotional moment. Elena Petrov stood waiting outside the Mercedes garage, Sophia beside her in a wheelchair. The little girl wore protective headphones and a miniature Mercedes team shirt with Hamilton's number 44. Lewis crouched down to Sophia's level, speaking softly to her. The child beamed with joy, reaching out to touch his racing helmet. Team members, journalists, and even competitors watched with warm smiles. This was the little girl who had caused Formula One's biggest star to miss 3 races, and no one could doubt the decision when they saw them together. What happened next surprised everyone. As Lewis stood to greet Elena, the Mercedes team parted to reveal a special viewing booth that had been set up inside the garage, a comfortable space where Sophia could watch the race protected from noise and crowds. "Sophia will be my special guest tomorrow," Lewis announced to waiting reporters. "The doctors have cleared her for a short visit, as long as she rests properly." A journalist called out, "Is this the start of a formal relationship with the Petrov family? Are you becoming her sponsor or guardian?" Lewis shook his head. "It's not about sponsorship. This is personal, more personal than anyone realizes." His voice held a hint of something deeper, a truth still waiting to be revealed. That evening, Lewis posted a photo that set social media alight. It showed 3 hands stacked together, his own large hand on the bottom, Elena's slender one in the middle, and Sophia's tiny one on top. The caption read, "Family comes in unexpected forms." Race day dawned bright and clear in the Austrian mountains. Fans lined the circuit, many carrying signs for both Lewis and Sophia. During the driver's parade, Lewis waved to a section of grandstand where a large banner read, "Sofia i Lewis," Sophia and Lewis, in Ukrainian. In the garage, cameras captured Sophia sitting in her special booth, clutching a stuffed toy version of Lewis's car. Elena sat beside her, looking more relaxed than she had in any previous photos. They seemed comfortable, as if belonging in this environment was the most natural thing in the world. When the national anthem played before the race, Lewis stood on the grid with the other drivers. But unlike them, he placed his hand over the Ukrainian flag on his chest, his eyes closed in a moment of reflection. As he climbed into his car, Lewis's race engineer spoke through the radio. "Sophia says good luck. She's watching from her special spot." Lewis's voice was steady when he replied, "Tell her this one's for family." The race that followed was one of the most focused performances of Lewis Hamilton's career. He stayed close, behind Verstappen for the opening laps, waiting patiently for the right moment. When it came, his overtake was smooth and decisive. From then on, he controlled the race with a masterful display of driving. Crossing the finish line for his second consecutive victory, Lewis's celebration was subdued, just a raised finger pointing upward. But as he parked in Parc Fermé and climbed from the car, his emotions finally showed. Walking directly to where Sophia and Elena watched from the side of the track, Lewis removed his helmet and knelt before the little girl. What he said to her wasn't picked up by microphones, but the cameras caught Sophia's response, tears of joy as she threw her arms around his neck. In that moment, as Lewis Hamilton held the child who had changed his life, the world finally began to understand that their connection went beyond charity or compassion. There was something else, something neither of them had known when fate brought them together on that street in Monaco. After the Austrian Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton's winning streak continued. He took victory in Hungary, then Belgium, narrowing the championship gap to Verstappen with each race. But fans noticed something different about the seven-time world champion. His celebrations were more subdued. His focus seemed to extend beyond the track. At each race, Sophia and Elena Petrov were present. Sometimes they appeared in the Mercedes garage, other times in a private suite. Sophia's health was visibly improving. The wheelchair gave way to walking with assistance, then walking on her own. Her pale complexion gained color. Her smile grew stronger. During a pre-race interview at the Dutch Grand Prix, a reporter finally asked the question many had been thinking. "Lewis, you've spoken about your cousin Lily, who died from the same heart condition that affects Sophia. Is that the only reason for your deep involvement with her care?" Lewis's expression shifted subtly. "It started that way," he admitted. "When I learned Sophia had tetralogy of Fallot with pulmonary atresia, it struck a chord. Lily was only 6 when we lost her. The medical options weren't as advanced then. So this is about giving Sophia the chance your cousin didn't have?" "Partly," Lewis said. "But there's more to it. Sophia's treatment has been enlightening." This cryptic answer prompted medical journalists to investigate. They discovered that Lewis had been quietly funding research into congenital heart defects for years through his charitable foundation. His donations had helped establish a specialized treatment program at the London hospital where Sophia was being treated. Lewis Hamilton's interest in this field began long before he met Sophia Petrov, explained Dr. Sarah Jenkins, a cardiac specialist who had worked with his foundation. He approached us 3 years ago about creating better treatment options for children with complex heart conditions. What no one had realized was that Lewis had never expected to personally know a child who would benefit from this program. Sophia's case had taken his philanthropic interest and made it deeply personal. Then, during a press conference before the Italian Grand Prix at Monza, Lewis finally began to open up about the full story. "I want to clarify something about Sophia's medical journey," he said, his voice steady but emotional. "Without the rapid transport to Switzerland that day, her condition would have deteriorated beyond repair. The specific treatment she needed wasn't widely available." Lewis explained that the specialized procedure Sophia underwent in Switzerland was part of a trial program that his foundation had helped fund. The timing had been crucial. "When I learned who she was and what condition she had, I knew exactly what needed to happen," Lewis continued. I didn't just provide transportation. I used my connections to get her immediate access to the trial program. Sometimes being Lewis Hamilton opens doors that would remain closed to others. Elena Petrov, sitting at the back of the press room, nodded in agreement. When a journalist asked her to comment, she approached the microphone with dignity. Lewis didn't just save Sophia's life with his plane and his money, Elena said, her accent still strong but her English clear. He saved her with knowledge. He knew which doctors to call. He knew which questions to ask. This is not normal, even for a kind person. The medical details began to fascinate the public. Sophia's condition involved 4 different heart defects, combined with a severe narrowing of the pulmonary artery. The standard treatments often led to multiple surgeries throughout childhood, each with significant risks. But the trial program in Switzerland, partly funded by Lewis's foundation, used a new approach. It combined advanced imaging, 3D printed models of the heart, and minimally invasive techniques to repair multiple defects in a single procedure. Sophia had been one of the youngest patients to undergo this treatment. The success rate has been remarkable, explained Dr. Pierre Dubois, who had performed Sophia's surgery. We expect these children to lead normal lives with significantly fewer interventions than traditional approaches would require. What Lewis hadn't shared publicly was his personal involvement in the development of this program. Medical records revealed that he had provided DNA samples to researchers studying genetic links to heart conditions, samples that helped identify markers for early detection. This connection became clear when Sophia's medical team in London conducted genetic testing as part of her follow-up care. The results showed patterns similar to those in Lewis's family history. Tetralogy of Fallot often has genetic components, explained Dr. Jenkins in a medical journal interview. Certain variations appear more frequently in specific family lines. Without breaching confidentiality, I can say that recognizing these patterns can be crucial for treatment planning. As summer turned to autumn and the F1 season entered its final stages, Lewis Hamilton found himself fighting for more than just a record-breaking 8th World Championship. He was fighting to change how people understood heart conditions like Sophia's. At the Singapore Grand Prix, he launched a new initiative called Heart to Heart, focused on providing medical transport for children with complex cardiac conditions. Other drivers quickly joined the cause. The paddock, usually focused solely on competition, united behind this effort. Mercedes added a special logo to their cars, a heart with wings. Lewis explained its meaning during a trackside interview. "The heart represents children like Sophia," he said. "The wings represent how we can lift them to the care they need, no matter where they are." Sophia herself became an unexpected ambassador for the cause. Now strong enough to give short interviews, she spoke to a children's program about her experience. "I was very sick," she explained in simple terms. "My heart didn't work right. Then Lewis found me, and he knew how to make it better. Now I can run and play like other kids." When asked how she felt about Lewis, Sophia's answer touched everyone who heard it. "He feels like family," she said, "like we were supposed to find each other." This innocent comment sparked a new wave of speculation. Lewis's unusual level of commitment, his genetic interest in Sophia's condition, and the child's instinctive sense of connection all pointed to something beyond a chance encounter. Medical experts noted that Lewis's knowledge of Sophia's condition seemed unusually detailed for someone without medical training. His foundation's focus on this specific heart defect, years before meeting Sophia, raised questions about his personal connection to the disease. As the F1 season headed toward its conclusion, with Lewis now just 15 points behind Verstappen. In the championship, a medical report was accidentally leaked from the London hospital. Its contents would finally explain everything and shock the entire racing world. The leaked medical report appeared first on a small healthcare blog, then spread like wildfire across the internet. It contained genetic testing results for both Sophia Petrov and Lewis Hamilton, showing markers that suggested a distant but definite biological connection. The hospital immediately launched an investigation into the privacy breach, but the information couldn't be contained. Lewis was preparing for the United States Grand Prix in Austin when the story broke. His phone began buzzing with messages from his team, his family, and his publicist. News outlets were demanding comments. Social media exploded with theories. Toto Wolff called an emergency press conference at the Circuit of the Americas. Security was tight as journalists packed the room, all seeking confirmation of what the leaked report suggested, that Lewis Hamilton and Sophia Petrov shared DNA. Lewis will address these reports himself, Toto announced. But I ask everyone to remember that this involves a child's privacy and medical information that should never have been made public. When Lewis walked in, his face was calm but serious. He took his seat at the table and looked out at the crowd of reporters. I had planned to share this information in my own time, when Sophia and her mother were ready, he began. But since circumstances have forced my hand, I will confirm what many of you are asking. Yes, there appears to be a biological connection between Sophia and myself. The room erupted with questions. Lewis raised his hand for quiet. I didn't know this when I first helped Sophia and Elena in Monaco. I had no idea. I stopped to help because it was the right thing to do. The connection we discovered later came as a complete surprise to all of us. Lewis explained that the genetic markers had been identified during Sophia's treatment in London. Further testing had confirmed a distant family relationship, though the exact nature was still being determined. What I can tell you is that Sophia's father, who died in Ukraine, appears to have been a distant cousin of mine. We're working with geneticists to understand the full picture, but the evidence is clear that Sophia and I share family history, particularly the genetic markers related to this heart condition. This revelation stunned the racing world. What had seemed like an extraordinary act of kindness now appeared to be something even more remarkable. A chance encounter that had reunited family, members who never knew of each other's existence. As Lewis left the press conference, his phone rang. It was Anthony, his father. "You okay, son?" Anthony asked. "I am," Lewis replied. "It's actually a relief to have it out there. No more secrets." "Your mother and I are proud of you," Anthony said. "Family is family, no matter how you find them." Back in England, Elena Petrov issued a brief statement through Lewis's foundation. "Sophia and I are grateful for the love and support we've received. We ask for privacy as we process these discoveries with Lewis. Sophia is doing well and continues to recover." The story captured imaginations worldwide. The odds against such a meeting seemed astronomical. A world-famous F1 driver happening to cross paths with a distant relative in need of exactly the type of medical help his foundation supported. Some called it fate, others called it a miracle. Scientists pointed out the mathematical improbability. Religious leaders spoke of divine intervention. Lewis himself simply called it life-changing. As the final races of the season approached, Lewis transformed his newfound family connection into a larger mission. At a special event before the Brazilian Grand Prix, he announced the expansion of his Heart-to-Heart initiative into a full-fledged foundation dedicated to connecting children with rare medical conditions to specialized treatment worldwide. "What happened with Sophia shouldn't be unique," Lewis told the gathered press. "Every child deserves access to the best care possible, regardless of where they live or their family's resources." The announcement came with a significant personal Commitment. Lewis pledged $20 million of his own money to launch the foundation. Other F1 drivers joined the cause. Max Verstappen, despite battling Lewis for the championship, donated $5 million. Teams added the heart-to-heart logo to their cars for the remaining races. Sofia's story had transformed the competitive world of Formula One into a unified force for good. At the Brazilian Grand Prix, something unprecedented happened. The race. Organizers invited Sofia to wave the checkered flag. Standing on the platform above the finish line, supported by her mother and a medical attendant, the little girl with the mended heart watched as her newfound relative raced toward victory. Lewis crossed the line first, narrowing Verstappen's championship lead to just 8 points, with 2 races remaining. When he saw Sofia waving the checkered flag, his emotion was clear even through his helmet visor. In the cool-down room before the podium ceremony, Max Verstappen approached Lewis. "That was special," the Dutch driver said, nodding toward Sofia, who could be seen celebrating with the Mercedes team. "No matter who wins the championship, she's the biggest victory this season." Lewis nodded, too moved for words. The following week, Elena and Sofia moved into a new home in London, purchased by Lewis but placed in Sofia's name. It was close to the hospital for follow-up appointments, but also near Lewis's own UK residence. Photos showed the 3 of them shopping for furniture together, Lewis carrying Sofia on his shoulders as they chose her bedroom color. Media coverage depicted them as a new kind of family, not traditional, but bound by both genetics and shared experience. Elena's quiet dignity and Lewis's protective nature toward both mother and child earned public respect. There was no romantic relationship between the adults, just a partnership focused on Sofia's well-being. As the penultimate race in Saudi Arabia approached, Lewis invited several children with similar heart conditions to attend as his special guests. The Mercedes garage welcomed these young visitors, who met Sofia and saw firsthand the medical journey she had undertaken. "This is bigger than racing now," Lewis told reporters as he watched Sofia showing another child her surgery scar. "These kids are fighting battles much harder than anything I face on track." The race in Saudi Arabia was dramatic, with Lewis taking victory after a controversial battle with Verstappen. They would go to the final race in Abu Dhabi tied on points, a perfect season finale, with an 8th World Championship at stake for Lewis. Yet in his post-race interview, Lewis spent more time discussing the children he had hosted than the championship battle. His perspective had visibly shifted. "Finding Sofia, discovering our connection, it's given me a purpose beyond trophies," he explained. "Don't get me wrong, I still want to win, but I've learned there's winning in racing, and then there's winning in life. I've already won the bigger race." As Formula One headed to its season finale in Abu Dhabi, Lewis Hamilton was fighting for more than just a record-breaking championship. He was racing to inspire a movement, to change lives, and to honor the strange twist of fate that had led him to miss the Monaco Grand Prix and find family he never knew existed. And Sofia would be watching from the Mercedes garage, wearing her miniature team uniform with Hamilton stitched across the back, a name they now knew they shared through a connection neither could have imagined. The Abu Dhabi Grand Prix promised to be historic. Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen arrived with identical points totals, 369.5 each. Whoever finished ahead would be world champion. For Lewis, it meant the possibility of an unprecedented 8th title, breaking Michael Schumacher's record. For Max, it would be his first championship. But as the F1 circus descended on the Yas Marina circuit, Lewis Hamilton seemed strangely at peace. The usual pre-race tension was missing from his face. During Thursday's press conference, a journalist noted this change. "You seem unusually calm for someone about to race for a record-breaking championship," the reporter observed. Lewis smiled. "My perspective has changed. Don't misunderstand. I want to win as much as ever. But I've gained something more valuable than any trophy." That something was visible in the Mercedes garage, where Sofia Petrov sat in a special area equipped with comfortable seating and medical supplies if needed. Her mother Elena stood nearby, chatting with Angela, Lewis's physiotherapist. They had become a familiar sight in the paddock, accepted as part of Lewis's extended family. What nobody knew was that Lewis had received new information about his connection to Sofia, information that would shock everyone when revealed. The genetic testing had continued over recent weeks, with more detailed analysis of both Lewis's and Sofia's DNA. The results had arrived just days before the Abu Dhabi race. Lewis had shared them with only his closest family members and Elena. The public announcement would come after the championship was decided. Qualifying day brought high drama. Lewis secured pole position with a blistering lap that left Verstappen nearly half a second behind, an eternity in Formula One terms. As he returned to the garage, Lewis went straight to Sofia, high-fiving the beaming 8-year-old. "That was so fast," Sofia exclaimed, her English improving weekly. "Nobody can catch." "You!" Lewis crouched to her level. "It's because I had my lucky charm watching," he said, tapping her nose gently. That evening, Lewis invited Elena and Sofia to dinner at his hotel. They were joined by Lewis's father Anthony, his brother Nicholas, and his stepmother Linda. The Ibriu group spoke softly together, occasionally glancing at other diners to ensure their privacy. Whatever they discussed left everyone emotional, with both Anthony and Elena wiping away tears at one point. Race day dawned clear and hot in Abu Dhabi. The championship showdown dominated worldwide sports coverage. But within the Mercedes garage, another story was unfolding. The team had gathered for a private moment before the pre-race preparations began. Toto Wolff stood beside Lewis as he addressed the assembled mechanics, engineers, and support staff. "Before we chase this championship," Lewis began, "I want to thank you all for supporting me through this unusual season. What started with my unexplained absence in Monaco has become the most meaningful journey of my life." Lewis placed his hand on Sofia's shoulder. "Some of you know the full story now. After the race, everyone will. But I want my team to hear it from me first." What Lewis revealed to his team that morning left many in tears. The typically stoic mechanics embraced him one by one. Toto Wolff, usually composed and businesslike, was visibly moved. The team departed, for their duties with renewed purpose, many glancing back at Sofia with new understanding. As Lewis prepared for the race, slipping into his fireproof suit and focusing his mind, his race engineer Bono approached with a small package. "From Sofia," Bono explained. "She insisted you have it before the start." Inside was a hand-drawn picture showing a racing car with a stick figure driver giving a thumbs up. Written above in a child's handwriting were the words, "My cousin Lewis." Lewis carefully placed the drawing inside a pocket of his racing suit, closest to his heart. The race itself was a masterclass in driving. From pole position, Lewis made a perfect start and built a lead of over 7 seconds by the halfway point. Verstappen, driving with determination and skill, couldn't match the Mercedes driver's pace. As the laps counted down, it became clear that barring mechanical failure or accident, Lewis Hamilton would become an 8-time world champion. In the Mercedes garage, Sofia watched intently, occasionally covering her ears when the excitement became too loud. Elena kept one eye on her daughter and the other on the screen showing Lewis's progress. Anthony Hamilton sat nearby, occasionally explaining race strategy to Sofia. With 10 laps remaining, Lewis's voice came over the team radio. "How's our special guest doing?" "She's good," Bono replied. "Says to keep both hands on the wheel." Lewis chuckled. "Tell her I always listen to family." On the final lap, with victory assured, Lewis slowed slightly as he passed the Mercedes garage. His hand briefly lifted from the steering wheel in a small wave. Not to the team, but to the little girl whose life had become intertwined with his own. When he took the checkered flag, Lewis's radio message was simple. For Sophia, for family, for all of us. The podium celebration was emotional. As the British anthem played for the race winner and constructor champion, Lewis pointed to the sky and then to Sophia in the crowd below. Verstappen, gracious in defeat, shook Lewis's hand warmly. "You drove like a man with something special to fight for," the Dutch driver said. "I was," Lewis replied. At the post-race press conference, journalists expected to discuss the championship battle and Lewis's record-breaking 8th title. Instead, Lewis Hamilton changed the subject. "Today is special for many reasons," he began. "Winning this championship means a great deal to me and my team. But there's something more important I want to share." The room fell silent. Cameras focused on Lewis's face as he took a deep breath. When Sophia's genetic results came back, showing a connection to my family, we all assumed it was distant, perhaps a shared ancestor generations back. But further testing revealed something extraordinary. Lewis paused, composing himself. Sophia's father, Michael Petrov, was not a distant relative as we first thought. He was my first cousin. His father was my father's brother, who left England decades ago and lost touch with our family. Michael was born abroad and eventually became an aid worker in Ukraine, where he met Elena. He never knew about his connection to me, and I never knew he existed. Gasps filled the press room. This wasn't just a distant genetic link. It was a direct family connection. "Sophia is my first cousin once removed," Lewis continued. "She is the closest blood relative of my generation, besides my brother Nicholas. When I stopped to help a stranger in Monaco, I had no idea I was actually helping my own family." Reporters erupted with questions, but Lewis raised his hand. The mathematical odds of this happening, of me encountering my unknown cousin's child, at the exact moment she needed help that I was uniquely positioned to provide, are incalculable. Some might call it coincidence. Others might call it fate. I simply call it the most important moment of my life. As Lewis finished speaking, the door to the press room opened. Elena entered, guiding Sophia by the hand. The little girl walked slowly but steadily to Lewis's side. The newly crowned 8-time world champion lifted his cousin onto his lap, where she sat proudly wearing her miniature Mercedes uniform with Hamilton on the back, a name she now knew was truly hers by birth. The image of them together, the world champion and the little girl who shared his blood, became the defining photograph of the Formula One season. It captured not just a sporting triumph, but a human story that transcended racing. And it all began because Lewis Hamilton missed a race to help a stranger. 6 months after that dramatic championship finale in Abu Dhabi, Lewis Hamilton stood in the garden of his home in the English countryside. Sophia ran across the lawn, chasing a butterfly, her laughter floating on the summer breeze. Elena sat on the patio, talking with Lewis's parents. This had become a regular Sunday gathering when the F1 schedule allowed. Family time away from the cameras and attention. "She gets stronger every day," Elena said, watching her daughter. "The doctors say her heart function is nearly normal now." Anthony Hamilton nodded. "She's got Hamilton blood," he said proudly. "We don't give up easily." The story of Lewis Hamilton finding his unknown cousin's daughter had captivated the world. Television specials, news articles, and social media couldn't get enough of the incredible coincidence that had brought them together. Statistical experts calculated the odds as 1 in several billion, a driver happening to be in exactly the right place to help his own relative whom he'd never met. The new Formula One season was well underway, with Lewis leading the championship once again. But his approach to racing had fundamentally changed. He still fought for every point, still pushed the limits of his car and himself. But the intensity that had sometimes bordered on obsession was replaced by a more balanced perspective. Racing used to be everything, Lewis explained in an interview for a documentary about his journey. Now it's important, but it's one part of a bigger life. Finding Sophia and Elena didn't just add to my family, it showed me what really matters. The Heart to Heart Foundation had grown beyond anyone's expectations. With centers in London, New York, and Singapore, it provided specialized medical transport and treatment access for children with complex cardiac conditions. Sophia had become its symbol and unofficial ambassador, appearing in videos explaining heart conditions in child-friendly terms. Elena had found purpose beyond caregiving as well. With Lewis's encouragement, she had returned to the nursing studies she had abandoned when fleeing Ukraine. She now worked part-time with the foundation while completing her degree. The Monaco Grand Prix came around again, 1 year after Lewis's unexpected absence. This time, he arrived with Sophia beside him, both wearing matching Mercedes team gear. As they walked through the paddock, drivers and team personnel stopped to greet them. Even Ferrari and Red Bull staff smiled and waved. Last year at this time, I was sitting on a curb crying because my car broke down and Sophia needed help, Elena reminded Lewis as they passed the spot where they had first met. Lewis shook his head in wonder. If I had gone running on the mountain trails instead of along the beach that morning? Or if I had taken a different route to the clinic? Or if I had been focused only on the race and just called someone else to help you? They had played this game of what if many times, marveling at how many small decisions had aligned to create their meeting. When qualifying began in Monaco, Sophia sat in the Mercedes garage wearing large protective headphones. On the back of her team shirt was a special design, the number 44, with a small heart replacing one of the numerals. The same symbol appeared on Lewis's helmet. Lewis secured pole position with a lap that his engineer called the best I've ever seen around Monaco. When he returned to the garage, his first action was to give Sophia their special handshake, a complicated sequence of moves they had developed together. "That one was for you, Soph," Lewis said, using his nickname for her. Sophia beamed. "Does this mean I get ice cream?" "Double scoops," Lewis promised. On race day, the atmosphere was electric. Celebrities packed the harbor and balconies overlooking the circuit. But the most important spectators, in Lewis's mind, were in the Mercedes garage. Before climbing into his car, he wrapped Sophia in a gentle hug. "Remember our deal?" he asked. Sophia nodded seriously. "If you win, we visit 5 more kids in the hospital this week." That's right. Extra motivation. The race was a masterclass. Lewis led from start to finish, controlling the pace perfectly on the narrow streets where overtaking was nearly impossible. When he crossed the finish line, his radio message was simple. For Sophia. 1 year later, full circle. In the cool-down room before the podium ceremony, Max Verstappen clapped Lewis on the shoulder. "Quite a difference from last year," the Dutch driver noted. "Miss a race, find a family member, come back and win a championship. Only Lewis Hamilton could make that." "Story," Lewis smiled. Sometimes losing something small helps you find something much bigger. At the press conference, a journalist asked if Lewis regretted missing the Monaco Grand Prix the previous year, given how it had affected the early part of his championship campaign. Lewis's answer was immediate and certain. "Not for 1 second," he said. "That race absence led me to Sofia, to Elena, to family I never knew I had. I would make that same choice every time." That evening, at a small celebration dinner with his team and family, Lewis raised a toast. "To missed races and found family," he said. "Sometimes life's detours take you exactly where you need to go." As summer turned to autumn, Lewis fought for another championship. Sofia's health continued to improve. Elena neared completion of her nursing degree. The Hamilton family, expanded in ways no one could have predicted, grew closer. 1 year after the shocking revelation of their true connection, Sofia sat in a special classroom at the Heart to Heart Foundation's London Centre. Around her, other children with similar heart conditions listened as she explained in simple terms how her own heart had been fixed. "And my cousin Lewis helped me get better," she concluded with a bright smile. "He says everybody deserves help when they need it, even if they think they're all alone." On the wall behind her hung a framed photo, the moment in Abu Dhabi when Lewis had lifted Sofia onto the podium after winning his 8th championship. Below it was a simple caption that summarized their extraordinary journey. "Sometimes the race that matters most isn't the one on the track." For Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champion who became 8-time champion, the most important victory had come from missing a race. In losing Monaco, he had gained something far more precious than any trophy. He had found family he never knew existed, and in doing so, discovered a purpose beyond racing that would define his legacy far more than any championship. I hope you enjoyed this emotional journey of how Lewis Hamilton's decision to help a stranger led to an incredible discovery that changed both their lives forever. Where are you listening from today? We'd love to know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story about kindness, connection, and finding family in unexpected places, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming stories like this one. Don't forget to share with your friends and family to spread a message of kindness and awareness about how one selfless act can change lives in ways we never could imagine. Until next time, remember that sometimes life's detours lead us exactly where we're meant to be.